Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Morning, folks. Welcome to the Daily Politics here on BBC One. So we say farewell to Prime Minister Cameron. Hello, Prime Minister May. Theresa May will enter Downing Street early this evening as Prime Minister. She's promised a bold, positive vision for a country that works not just for the privileged few. But what does that mean? What will it look like? David Cameron left Downing Street earlier this morning to head over to the House of Commons for his final Prime Minister's questions. We'll bring you all the action live at midday. Jeremy Corbyn will automatically be on the ballot for the Labour leadership contest. Meanwhile, a new contender, Owen Smith, says he will also challenge Mr. Corbyn.
And I'm in Central Lobby in the Houses of Parliament, where I'll be getting reaction from all the key political players.
So all that's in the next hour and a half. And this historic occasion here in Westminster, we're joined by the current Northern Ireland Secretary, Theresa Villiers, and the Shadow Justice Secretary, Richard Bergen. Welcome to you both.
Hi.
Now, a sunny morning, as you can see here in Westminster. The Prime Minister left Downing Street a little while ago for his final visit to the Commons as Prime Minister for Prime Minister's Questions. As I say, that's coming live at noon. Mr. Cameron was the youngest Prime Minister for 198 years. He leaves office still under the age of 50. He's been replaced by an older woman. Mrs. May is 59. She's ruled out a snap election, and until we learn otherwise, we will take her at her word. It's probably the last thing Labour would want at this moment anyway. So, we expect the Prime Minister, when he's finished with PMQs and said his goodbyes in the Commons, will then go back to Downing Street and leave for the Palace around 5 o'clock tonight. And when he gets to the Palace, he informs the Queen of his formal resignation. He then leaves. He is no longer Prime Minister. Shortly after that, Theresa May will be taken to the Palace to do the traditional kissing of hands. I'm not sure the hands are actually kissed, but it's a symbolic signal that this is the new Prime Minister. And when she leaves Buckingham Palace to head to Downing Street, she will be the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And she'll go back to Downing Street, and we expect her there to say a few words before she goes through that famous door. So a busy and historic day here in Westminster. Lots to cover. BBC News Channel, BBC One will keep you up to date throughout the day. And of course, Jo Coburn is in the Central Lobby in this big building behind me, and she's going to be doing a number of interviews all day. So let's now go over to Jo Co and hear what she's going to say and who she's going to be talking to. Jo.
Yes, Andrew, it's a momentous occasion here, as you've said, in Westminster. It's even more packed here in Central Lobby than it normally is for Prime Minister's Questions, of course, because it's David Cameron's final session here. Let's try and get a sense of the occasion with the International Development Secretary, Justin Greening, who's joined me. Your thoughts?
Well, it is historic, and obviously it's the end of the Cameron era. He does his final PMQs. I think he's always been very good at PMQs, so it'd be interesting to see how he handles today's last session. And I think he could be really proud of what he's achieved as Prime Minister for our country, I think, turning the country around from the brink of bankruptcy, all sorts of workaround opportunities for young people on apprenticeships, more women in the workplace than ever before. But I think, yes, a real sense of actually what's ahead of us now, and a day when Theresa May will walk into number 10.
Right, changing of the guard, as you say. Let's look ahead to Theresa May. Will her government be radically different in style and substance to David Cameron's?
I think what you'll see is a combination of delivering the manifesto that we were only elected to do last year. So keeping that and making sure we get on with it. But then, yes, I think she'll bring her own style and some of her real priorities, if you like, to this government as well.
What are those?
Well, for someone like myself, coming from a very ordinary background in Rotherham in the 80s, it's around making sure that wherever you start in Britain, you can get right to the top, you can fulfil your potential. And I think also when you look at some of the other areas she's focused on in Home Office, whether it's tackling FGM, ending forced marriage, domestic violence. Theresa's always been someone who's been a very tough Home Secretary, but when she sees things that are injustices that she doesn't accept, she will also set out to change them.
So will her government at the top table reflect those priorities with people like you sitting around that cabinet table?
Well, we'll see what choices she makes on the team she's going to build, but I certainly hope it'll show a lot of the great women that we've got in our party.
50% cabinet, do you think? Should it be?
I think she's going to pull through more women. I think it's up to Theresa what team she wants at the end of the day, but I hope there are lots of the great women here. People like Karen Bradley have been fantastic in Home Office. Even people more out of sight like the Deputy Chief Whip, Anne Milton. They're just great colleagues to work with, and I think have a real role to play in this next set of these coming years for the Conservative Party in government.
Justine Greening, I'm going to let you take your place
Thank
inside
you.
the chamber. Enjoy the last session here of David Cameron. And of course, Andrew, as you said, you'll be returning to Central Lobby and I'll be talking to more of the key players.
Thanks, Joko. They'll all be rushing to get their places for a very busy PMQs. There's never enough room for all of them if they turn up, these MPs. Two that don't have to worry. They've got a ringside seat here on BBC One. Theresa Villiers, in what way will the May government be different in policy from the Cameron government?
Well, I think Theresa will map out her programme. I think there will be a lot of consistency because Theresa, like David Cameron, is driven by the need to improve life chances, the sorts of things that Justine was talking about, to make sure that we do all we can to back aspiration, to ensure that everyone has the potential everyone can fulfil their potential.
But that's political rhetoric. Every politician I've ever heard talks about life chances and fulfilling aspiration. Nobody's against that. How will the government differ? How will the May government be different?
Well, she's obviously going to focus on the big challenges we have of building more homes for people to buy and rent, ensuring that we continue with our reform of the welfare system so that it backs those who work, ensuring that we do everything to create the best education system in the world.
How is any of that different from what the Cameron government says it was trying to do? It's been trying to build more homes, not very successfully. It's been trying to improve the education system. People can make up their minds on that. Where is the difference? Or is it just a continuity government?
Well, there's consistency, but also the opportunities Theresa has as Prime Minister relate to our decision to leave the European Union. There is huge potential in a Brexit vote in terms of new trade deals with countries around the world. That is a whole range of opportunities which were not open to David Cameron's government, and I'm sure Theresa will seize them with enthusiasm.
All right. Richard Bergen, are you apprehensive about Theresa May as Prime Minister? Will she be, when your party sorts itself out, will she be a formidable adversary as PM?
Well, I think the real challenge for Theresa May, and quite rightly, people are celebrating the fact that we have our second female Prime Minister, but I think the real challenge for Theresa May is to pursue policies which don't disproportionately, adversely affect women, because the austerity and cuts agenda that the government has pursued has disproportionately hit women. But the truth is that Theresa May doesn't have an easy job. She's inheriting an economy that isn't in the good position that George Osborne would have wished it to be. So it's not going to be an easy ride for Theresa May.
No, maybe not an easy ride, but is Labour apprehensive about it? She'll have a fresh start. She'll, for at least a while, have a honeymoon with the party. She may even have a honeymoon with the country. She'll be in quite a strong position compared to Labour, will she not?
I think the task for Labour is to unite, face outwards and look forward towards putting a positive Labour case to the country, rather than worrying about the Conservative party itself.
Well, you probably won't be able to do that before September the 24th, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Because while the Tories look to unite around the new leader, the Labour Party is in turmoil. Last night, the party's ruling executive narrowly voted to put Jeremy Corbyn's name on the upcoming leadership ballot without having to be nominated. That's what he wanted. This has angered many Labour MPs who are against him, the vast majority of whom have been openly critical of his leadership. After the decision was reached by the National Executive Committee in a street just round the corner from here, this was Mr. Corbyn's reaction.
I'm delighted to say the Labour Party National Executive has decided that an incumbent is automatically on the ballot paper, so I'm on the ballot paper. And we will be campaigning on all the things that matter. The inequality and poverty that exist in this country, the need to end the privatisation of our National Health Service, the need to give real hope and opportunity to young people all across this country. That's what Labour exists for. That's what we exist for.
Mr. Corbyn, after getting his name on the ballot paper, of course that was sparked off by Angela Egan, who's already launched her challenge for the Labour Party's top job. And this morning a second Labour MP threw his hat into the ring in the race to challenge Mr. Corbyn. The former Shadow and Pension Secretary, Owen Smith, said he would be a radical and credible leader who would take Labour back into power.
Because I think the Labour Party is in grave peril right now. There is a danger that we are going to split, and if we were to split, that would be a disaster for working people, because the Labour Party has been the greatest vehicle for good for working people in this country for a century, and we cannot afford to allow it to fall by the wayside. And if I get to lead this party, we will be a credible but radical government in waiting. We will be a powerful opposition to a Tory government that has not left Britain stronger, but has left Britain weaker in oh so many ways.
So Owen Smith, one of two to challenge Jeremy Corbyn for the Labour leadership, though I learned this morning there may be moves to whittle the challengers down to one. We'll see if that happens in the days ahead. Richard Bergen, this is going to be a pretty nasty personal leadership election, isn't it?
Well, it shouldn't be, and I hope it's not.
But it's going to be.
Well, what I'd like to start off by saying is I'm really glad that the undemocratic attempt to deny Labour Party members the length and breadth of the country of their fair and just right to choose whichever leader they want has failed, so I'm delighted about that. Right. But as the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has said, this can't be nasty, it can't be divisive, and it can't be personal. Let's concentrate on the issues.
Right, well, let's look at what happened at a Corbyn rally in Kentish Town near North London, central London, last night. This is John MacDonald, the Shadow Treasury Chancellor.
They've been plotting and conniving. The only good thing about it, as plotters, they're useless.
So, John MacDonald, number two in your party, calling Labour MPs conniving and plotting and, not to use the full expletive, effing useless. What bit is the kind of gentler politics about that?
Well, it was some sort of comedy rally last night, and the test before Labour is not whether or not John MacDonald's jokes are good or whether John MacDonald's a good comedian. It's about the kind of anti-austerity positive agenda we can put forward. But what I would say more generally, Andrew, it's time for all Labour MPs to calm down, take a deep breath, stop infighting, support whoever you wish, obviously, in the leadership campaign hard for them, and then focus on the task of the Labour Party, which is to hold this Conservative government to account and take the fight to the Tories.
It wasn't just John MacDonald last night, whether he's a comedian or the Shadow Chancellor, I'll leave to our viewers. Mr Sirwatka, leader of PCS, also backing Corbyn, one of the unions behind him, he said Tony Blair should, quote, F off. Or F you, he actually said, not using the full expletive again. He said Neil Kinnock, a former leader of your party, was, quote, a disgrace to Wales. He should pee off. The CWU boss of the union, David Ward, said some Labour MPs, your colleagues, are, quote, bloody Tories who should join the May cabinet. I ask again, what happened to the kinder, gentler politics, or are they all comedians?
Well, I don't think that any Labour MP should leave the Labour Party or leave the Parliamentary Labour Party. I don't think that we should be in any way suggesting that a split in the Parliamentary Labour Party or in the country is a good idea. But let me say this. If the National Executive Committee last night had voted to deny the fair and just chance for Labour members across the country to vote for the Day One, then I think the Labour Party would have split. And that would have been bad news for everyone in the Labour Party.
Is it not a sign of how rancorous this campaign is expected to be that local party constituency organisations have been told not to have meetings?
Well, I think the Labour Party has always been, and should always be, a coalition of socialists and social democrats.
Why are you not having meetings? Why can you not have meetings?
Decisions. Well, the NEC thinks the Labour Party has got enough on its plate over the summer.
It's worried.
It's worried. Leadership
it's worried about how bad it's going to be.
Incidentally, many constituent Labour parties don't have meetings in August in any event, mine included.
Yeah, but they also don't often have leadership campaigns, though they are now going to have two in a row in August. Let me ask you this. If you joined the Labour Party last year, many to vote for Mr Corbyn, Do you get to vote this year, or are you hit by the cut-off date of January this year?
Well, if you joined as a full member last year, before January this year, then you're entitled to vote in this
And what
election.
about the £3 sign-ups?
Well, my understanding is that the National Executive Committee decided that the £3 supporters who joined last year, if they didn't join as full members, would have to re-register as supporters in a 48-hour window starting this Thursday and have to pay the sum of £25.
And I assume Mr Corbyn and his campaign will be organising that, will they not?
Well, what I would say is I want this election process to be as open, inclusive and participatory as possible, and I don't want to see Labour supporters priced out of having their say. So the £25 does disturb me somewhat.
But if you signed up to join the Labour Party, we're told 130,000 have joined since the referendum, and I think they paid £40. They were not on the £3 list. They're now being told they can't vote unless they pay another £25. But in the small print, it said they could vote in a leadership election. Are you not going back on that?
It wasn't the small print, Andrew, it was the big print
Well,
on the Labour
you
Party.
made my point for
on
me.
the Labour Party website, it said if you join, you'll be able to vote. I know that Angela Eagle, Neil Kinnock and others were encouraging people to join, quite rightly.
But they won't be able
take
to
part
vote
in this
now.
process. That disturbs me greatly, and I'd like to see that looked at again. I am not afraid, and we're not afraid of more people involved. We're not afraid of ideas or debate. So let's make it as inclusive and participatory as possible.
Do you detect that there is still massive support for Mr Corbyn among the rank and file members of the party?
I do, but I don't take any election, either an election in the country or an election in the Labour Party, for granted. So what Jeremy and his team have got to do is put out a positive agenda for what a Labour government will do and how we'll get a Labour government.
Labour's in turmoil. It's maybe going to the courts over the membership and who can vote. The campaign goes all the way through till the new leader is announced on the 24th. We don't know what will happen there. It could still split. Could be some kind of schism. Why don't you call an election?
We believe that we need stability at this important time. We've got a mandate for a 5-year term. I think it's absolutely right that we fulfil that mandate, we carry on until the election date that's been set, and we make a success of leaving the European Union during that period.
All right, so no election. You heard it here. We'll hold that against you if you change your mind. 12 minutes to 12. I'm just looking at my watch to check the time. 12 minutes till Prime Minister's questions and Mr Cameron's final one. Let's go back to the Commons and to Joko in the central lobby.
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Labour leadership contest, because with me here in Central Lobby is Stephen Kinnock. He was amongst the first of the Parliamentary Labour Party to call for Jeremy Corbyn to step down and resign. But every attempt you and your colleagues have made to actually prevent Jeremy Corbyn being on the ballot for the next leadership contest has failed.
Well, it was a decision of the NEC. I personally don't understand the logic of the decision, but it is what it is. We've now got to move forward. We have a leadership contest. We're now battling for the soul of the Labour Party. I genuinely believe it's a battle that we're going to win.
Is the party going to split, though?
There is only one Labour Party, and we will continue as a Labour Party. Angela Eagle has got what it takes to win this contest. She's got the experience. She is the kind of person that we need to steady the ship now. And also, she's a persuader and not a protester. The Brexit vote has completely changed the face of British politics. Angela's got the skills and the experience to carry out the negotiations that we need, not just to wave a placard in a corridor somewhere.
Right, so you see John McDonnell, Jeremy Corbyn and their supporters as a sort of protest movement, not the real Labour Party.
With all due respect to Jeremy and John, they've spent their entire political careers in rooms and at rallies where everybody agrees with them. This is a time for serious politics. We're in the middle of a national crisis. We need a serious politician to lead the Labour Party. That person is Angela Eagle.
But with all the evidence we have at the moment, Jeremy Corbyn will win another Labour leadership contest.
Well, I think if you look at people's mailbags at the moment, a lot of my colleagues as well are saying this, that many members who said, yeah, I voted for Jeremy last time, are realising that he's just not up to the job, failing to hold the Prime Minister to account at Prime Minister's questions, hopeless on the refugee crisis, hopeless in the referendum, and then coming out the morning after the referendum to say that we should trigger Article 50 immediately, as if he was asking Islington Council to change the streetlights on the road. It's just extraordinary, and it just shows, I think, how out of touch with reality he is.
But he still could win. If he does win a second leadership contest, will you and your colleagues shut up?
I will serve my constituents, the people that elected me, and I'll be very happy and honoured and proud to do that from the backbenches.
You wouldn't serve in a Jeremy Corbyn shadow cabinet?
I do not have confidence in Jeremy as a leader, and you cannot serve on the front bench unless you have confidence in the leader. What's clear is we don't have a front bench at the moment. We are not able to form a credible opposition. I really hope that our members who vote now over the coming weeks and months think about not just the future of our party, but the future of our democracy. If you can't form a front bench, you can't form an opposition.
You're supporting Angela Eagle. What do you say to Owen Smith, who is also now challenging for the leadership?
I genuinely hope that we will only have one candidate, and to campaign against Jeremy, and I really hope that that candidate will be Angela Eagle. But of course, Owen is a very talented politician, brings a lot to the table. So let's see what happens over the coming days.
Stephen Kinnock, thank you very much. It's going to be a long, hot summer, Andrew, perhaps without the heat.
It's a long, hot programme out here, Joko. It's all right for you in air-conditioned splendour. We workers are struggling. You know it's important when there are helicopters above us here in Westminster, and there are helicopters above us today. Let's have a look at the shots from the helicopter with this glorious July day, with Westminster, the Houses of Parliament, the Palace of Westminster in all its glory. Very shortly, the Prime Minister will be going in there for his final PMQs. The press is here in massive numbers again in College Green. I'm not quite sure if you can see us there. If we could, we'd wave at you. Tents everywhere, not just British media, but European media, American media. Once again, Westminster, the centre of media attention for these historic events. They're lining up outside Parliament. There's the helicopter shot. That's the inner courtyard of the Palace of Westminster. One of them, there's quite a few. They're lining up, waiting for him to come out, some of the staff of the House of Commons. Laura, what do you make of this?
Well, these are pictures from Carriage Gate, where any moment now we expect him to come out. He'll then be picked up by the Prime Minister's cars. They'll swoop out and then make the short journey up Whitehall to Downing Street before later on we're expecting him to come out and give some words before he goes off to see the Queen to do the formal part of today's proceedings. Worth saying though, just when we were reflecting on what David Cameron does next, Theresa was mentioning earlier, look, Theresa May is inheriting a government with a majority of 12.
Yes.
David Cameron is going to need to turn up and go through the lobbies for the government to get his business done. Theresa May going to have the same issue that he had with a sort of awkward squad, a group of about 25, 30 MPs, many of them Eurosceptics. They will be perfectly prepared to cause trouble if they don't like what she's doing. So David Cameron, as somebody who's sort of in the middle of the Tory party, is going to have to be around every now and then. Whether he chooses to speak from the backbenches or get involved in issues, that's something that we'll have to wait and see. You certainly sense, as we wait for people to come out to watch his last journey out of the Commons as Prime Minister, that he feels now, just from the look of him, pretty relieved in a sense that it's all over.
I wonder if he's still going to be singing when he comes out.
Well,
maybe a different song.
He might know today a lesson you might have thought he'd have learned some time ago, that whenever there's a microphone near, maybe he all meant us to hear him singing a song. Who knows?
Well, either that, or we are fortunate that the politicians always forget in the end, Laura.
Yes.
And it gives us something to do. Theresa Villiers, all the candidates for the leadership of your party sort of position themselves on the centre, or even to some extent on the centre-left, on talk of infrastructure funds, talk of doing a lot more for the north, workers on the board. Theresa May was talking about publishing ratios of top pay to average pay. Is the Parliamentary Tory party signed on to all of that kind of approach?
Absolutely. I think there will be a lot of support for it. There is a recognition that there's excesses in corporate pay that need some constraints through more active shareholders and more transparency, giving more power to shareholders. So that, I think, is a welcome agenda.
Would command a majority of backbenchers and also of the party in the country, you think? Because it is I mean, people call it it's a one nation plus agenda, of course, if any of us delivered it.
But also, I think we're going to see a lot about making the United Kingdom a really competitive place to do business, with the sorts of ideas George Osborne has floated about reducing business taxes. Okay. And that sort of push of investment into infrastructure is going to be a great way to create jobs.
So let's just assume, that's a big assumption, the May government, which we'll soon be talking about, does a lot of this. Doesn't that push Labour more to the left? Because they're occupying not just the centre right, not just the centre, they're moving into the centre left as well. How do you tackle that?
I don't think that Labour's political positioning should depend upon the Conservative government's political positioning. I think Labour needs to be true to itself, decide what we believe in, pursue what we believe in, and put a positive case to the country. And I believe that the next general election, whenever it will be, however left the Conservative government may attempt to paint itself, there will be a real choice before the British electorate between a very different approach to the economy and everything else.
We shall see. Of course, it is a big assumption that they do what they say when they're campaigning for the leadership. Laura, quick thought, then we'll go to Joko.
Interesting though, lots of those ideas we've heard this week that Theresa May said the other day were actually Vince Cable's ideas during a coalition that she put forward. But one important broader point, Theresa May seems to have resolved on continuing David Cameron's mission in one way of trying to tether the Conservatives to the centre ground. And actually, whether they like it or not, Labour, therefore, will have to respond to that context. As you say, Richard, of course, most people in your party will want to stick to Europe principles, but the government sets the context by the things that they put forward, that Westminster and then politicians right around the country have to respond to.
And many people will think that Mr Cameron's legacy was that he did move and put into concrete his party's position on the centre ground.
And if that comes down to be his achievement, that's something that he will be very pleased about.
Joko's been waiting patiently. She's in the House of Commons. Let's go straight over to her in the central lobby. Jo.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. All the MPs are streaming out of the chamber behind me and everybody who is watching in the public gallery. I have managed to grab two Conservative MPs. They're with me now, Ed Vaizey and Harriet Baldwin. Welcome, both smiling. There were some jokes, no doubt about it, in final PMQs for David Cameron. You'd expect that. But he is going to be defined, isn't he, his legacy by Brexit?
Well, obviously Brexit is the reason he's leaving, so yes, it will define to a large extent his legacy, but I think what was good about PMQs today was we talked about all the other things that he's done. I mean, the stunning turnaround of our economy, and Harriet's a finance minister, and also his life chances strategy, social mobility. More jobs, more opportunities in this country, many more than when he started as Prime Minister.
Right, Theresa May will be the next Prime Minister. You backed Michael Gove in the leadership contest. Are you regretting that now?
Well, thanks for reminding everyone, Jo. That's incredibly helpful. I think what we know is that Harriet backed Theresa May, and also what I'm really pleased to read about in my newspapers today is that Theresa May is going to promote a lot of women. I think it would be absolutely fantastic if we see a cabinet that is gender balanced.
Right, and you are hoping to be in that cabinet?
No, not at all. I'm just so pleased, though, that Theresa's taking over as Prime Minister, because she did do so much to bring more women into the party, but we should also credit David Cameron with that. He did an enormous amount with the A-list initially, but also with Women to Win, and he's left a legacy of there actually being 4 times as many women MPs in the Conservative Party as when he took over as leader.
Right, I'm just going to interrupt briefly because I think we are showing pictures now of David Cameron leaving the Houses of Parliament. He'll be heading back or making the short journey back to 10 Downing Street, of course, before he goes to the Queen to tender his resignation. So people can watch that as it's happening. But let's continue our conversation here and talk about the next government and what it will look like. You talked about promoting women, and there's no doubt Theresa May did a lot to mentor and help women in Parliament. What should be her priority, her main priority in this government? Will it just be about EU negotiations?
Well, she's articulated it very clearly that she wants the economy to work for everybody, and I think that...
What does that mean, though? Everyone says that.
Well, I think one of the things she highlighted was some of the problems with corporate pay and some of the issues about payment for failure. She was trying to make the point about having someone who was a representative of the employees on the board, like they do in Germany. She is going to have to focus very much on the economy, because obviously we've got to negotiate this Brexit in the way that works for the opportunities that it presents for the economy as well as the challenges. So that's going to be an important part of what she focuses on.
Was it a tactical error to say that EU foreign nationals would be up for negotiation when she talks about UK leaving the EU?
She's made it very clear that what she wants to have happen here is for all of the over 1 million people living in other EU countries, that they also get the same negotiation as people who are living here and who've made their lives here. And so it's important to remember that aspect of it in terms of the discussions with other countries.
What about unifying the party? I was in the chamber as well for this momentous occasion. I spied Boris Johnson in the far corner. He couldn't have got further away from David Cameron. Maybe he was just late. That's going to be hard for her, isn't it?
Well, he was standing close to me, so maybe I'll be a bridge to bring Boris back into the party. But I think we are all unified behind Theresa May. We know that she has outstanding qualities and an outstanding record already in government, and I don't think the parliamentary party will certainly brook anyone doing noises off at such a crucial time for our country.
But should people like Boris Johnson and Michael Gove be in the cabinet? Would that take it a bridge, as you would put it, a bridge into both sides?
That's completely a matter for the new Prime Minister Theresa May, and I think anyone should agree to serve her in any capacity, either in her government or supporting her from the backbenches, regardless of who you are.
All right, well, the changing of the guard is happening as we speak. Thank you to both of you. And with that, it's back to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Joko. We're just taking pictures from our helicopter as the Prime Minister, small cavalcade, leaves the House of Commons and heads back to Downing Street. As he goes through, I think that bit is the Foreign Office building, to go through into Downing Street there for his final afternoon as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. You see the cars pulling up there on the side street, not in the main part of Downing Street, just in the side street there, as he begins his new life as a former Prime Minister of this country. There aren't many around. John Major, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, I think that's about it. And of course, as a former Prime Minister, for the rest of his life, wherever he goes, whatever he does, he will have to have security with him. That never goes away. It's one of the penalties that you pay for being a leader of this country and of course of other countries as well. There's Mr. Cameron going back into Downing Street, preparing later this afternoon to go to see the Queen in Buckingham Palace, quickly followed by Theresa May, who will then go to see the Queen to officially to become the Prime Minister of this country. So, one leadership power struggle, if I can put it that way, is gone. The Conservatives have chosen their leader. The country therefore has a new Prime Minister. She can command a majority in Parliament. That's what matters in this country. And we await to see what happens with the other power struggle, which is for the leader of the Labour Party. That is already underway. Let's go now to Mark Lobel. He's been following this, and there are some latest developments. Mark, what can you tell us now about the latest news from the Labour leadership contest?
Well, from the fraught, chaotic battle meeting yesterday of the NEC, Andrew, where Jeremy Corbyn won that decisive vote 14-18 to get automatically on the ballot, not needing those 51 nominations, MPs and MEPs. I've been told by two senior Labour sources that they're not going to challenge that because it was such a decisive victory, and they said it simply would not work. But the febrile atmosphere that we're in at the moment, where this contest is being played out, meant that it was a secret ballot because people were afraid of retaliation. And also, the constituency Labour parties meetings and branch meetings are going to be suspended until a leader is elected. But we've got more information on that leadership election. Anyone who wants to throw their hat in the ring has to do so by this time next week. And also, we'll have a result in just around 2 months' time on the 24th of September, one day before Labour's annual conference.
Mark, we have two challengers to Mr. Corbyn at the moment. We know about Owen Smith and Angela Eagle. Is there any talk that they may come under pressure to narrow themselves down to one, to have one challenger to Mr. Corbyn?
Yes, I've been told by a senior Labour figure that there's a 100% chance that they'll be whittled down to one within the week. So we'll see if that actually happens. But whoever it is, whether it's one or two, they've had some very good news from yesterday's NEC meeting because of what they decided about who's going to vote for that election. But what they said is that they were going to freeze membership. So anyone who has joined from the 12th of, up until the 12th of January this year will get a vote. But the 113,000 people, that surge of members who many thought were a majority pro-Corbyn, will not get a vote. And that's because Jeremy Corbyn wasn't in the room when an amendment against that vote, which came in at 14 all, was brought. So if he'd been in there, he would have had one more vote and he could have blocked that. So he's lost a block of votes there. But secondly, the key registered supporters are going to be taken away, which means that if you look at the results from before, 50% or 51% of members and affiliated supporters for Jeremy Corbyn backed him, which means it'll be a very tight contest on these terms.
All right, Mark, thank you for that. We've just learned that Theresa May dined with the Chief Rabbi just on the eve of becoming Prime Minister. That'll probably leave the Archbishop of Canterbury a bit miffed, and she's a vicar's daughter too. I mean, what's going on? Tell me, can you tell us simply, who's allowed to vote in the Labour leadership?
Well, Labour Party members who joined before the January cut-off date that's been mentioned can vote. Members of affiliated trade unions that pay the political levy can vote. and people who register as supporters for £25 in a 48-hour window between Thursday and Saturday can vote. I'd actually like to see more people being able to vote. I agreed with Angela Eagle and Neil Kinnock and others when they said people should be able to join and vote now. I think we should have as open and inclusive contest as possible, including as many people as possible.
But people watching now, if they wanted to join the Labour Party, fresh, they've not been members before, could they do that now, paying the full fee if they had to, and get the vote?
As it stands, they would have to become registered supporters between Thursday and Saturday in that 48-hour window at the cost of £25. I would say that £25 cost does disturb me. We shouldn't be pricing Labour supporters out of their rightful vote.
We're all going to have to go away and study the Labour voting rules. I thank you both for being with us on this historic day. That's it. We thank all of our guests. The 1 o'clock news is starting over on BBC One now. Joe and I will be here tomorrow at noon with all the big political stories of the day. And of course, there will be continuing coverage of political events here as we move from Prime Minister Cameron to Prime Minister May, and both of them visit the Queen later this afternoon. Keep tuned to BBC News and BBC One for all these events. Bye-bye.